Okay, before we begin, first off, welcome. Thank you everyone for spending your evening with us. Here at the MRCA, we would like to welcome you to a community meeting regarding the Elysian Valley. Before we begin our presentation, we were hoping to do a brief round of introductions. If you can tell us your name and affiliation to the Elysian Valley. This is going to be a little tough, but everyone has been really great at being on mute and bearing with us through getting our meeting up and running. So I guess I'm not sure if we all see each other in the same organized boxes, the same rows. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and start with Kim. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Kim Neal. I live in Elysian Valley, right down from the closed Lewis McAdams Park. I just wanted to know when it's opening.
We will be covering that. We hope you can join us for the duration of the meeting, and we will then touch upon that item. And Jesus, are you good on translating right now? I should probably mention anyone that needs Spanish translation. Before we get into the meeting, you should have a globe at the bottom of your screen. If you have joined us by computer, you would click that globe and click Spanish, a circle that says ES for Spanish translation. If you are on your phone, I guess I should say this in Spanish, or I'll leave Jesus on the Spanish channel. Si necesitan traducción y están con nosotros por computadora, hay un mundo en la computadora abajo de la computadora y debería decir Spanish. Es un círculo. Si están con nosotros por teléfono, abajo del teléfono, les voy a enseñar cómo se mira. Así se debería mirar si están con nosotros por teléfono y van a seleccionar la opción Language Interpretation. Melissa, can I put Jesus back on English? Do you know if my translation was mediocre?
Your interpretation was perfect. Don't worry.
Okay. So, y luego los que están por teléfono solamente van a poder oír la junta con nosotros. No, is there Spanish translation for phone? I don't think so, huh?
I don't know. I imagine it's going, if it's on the phone, it's also going on.
Jesus would need to switch himself over onto English.
Okay, he just did. So we wanted to touch on Spanish interpretation. Again, at the bottom of your screen, if you prefer Spanish, there's a circle where you can click Spanish. If you are on your phone, there should be 3 dots at the bottom of your phone. Click for more and go to language interpretation. Okay, so we will continue with introductions. Jesus, if you can help us on the Spanish channel with ensuring that our Spanish speakers also get introduced. Thank you, Kim. We'll go on to Lacey.
Hi, my name is Lacey Withers, and I'm a principal with Withers and Sandgren Landscape Architects, and we are the designers working for the MRCA and with the community on the design for the park.
Great. Karen?
I'm Karen Smallfoot, and I'm in Glassell Park and I've lived in the area since 1957.
Great. Next, I see Hector.
Hi, Hector Vega with Councilmember Mitchell Farrell's office, Field Deputy for Elysian Valley.
Hi, Steve. You're on mute.
Okay, here we go. Steve Appleton, a long-term Elysian Valley resident and owner of Valley River Kayak Safari and Water Institute of Science Policy. Thanks for having us.
Hi, Derek. Would you like to introduce yourself? Sorry. Oh, can you unmute?
Yes, sorry, my first time using Zoom. Hi, I'm Derek, formerly of Elysian Valley. I have a company called Happier Camper. We manufacture travel trailers, and we were founded in Elysian Valley around 10 years ago. Yeah, so hi.
Hi, Jeff Tipton. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Me?
You're on mute. Joe, I'm going to get to staff afterward. Sorry.
Hello?
Hi, Jeff. You're on.
Yeah, Jeff Tipton, LA River Kayaks.
Troy? Would you like to unmute, Troy? Troy Carbajal? Okay, whenever you're ready, Troy. JJ?
I am JJ with the City of Anaheim, and I'm very interested to borrow some ideas from you guys and see how Zoom goes. We have not done a Zoom meeting, and we're happy to be part of this.
Cool, welcome. Who else do we have? Marcos? Anna and Andrea Torres. I'm going to ask you all to unmute if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Hi.
Hi, so I'm Andrea.
This is Ruben.
We live down the street from Vista Hermosa, and we follow the Instagram page, so we thought we'd join in.
Great, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Marcos, Anna. We also have a 626-695 number. I believe you can unmute by pressing star. Oh, you're good. You're unmuted.
Good evening. This is Gary Alfelt, and I've been working with MRCA on the property there on Marsh.
Thanks for joining us, Gary. Okay, that is everyone. Marcos Trinidad, if you can unmute, otherwise I'll introduce you. Marcos is the Executive Director of the Audubon Center at Debs Park. And now we'll go over, Anna, sorry, I don't know your affiliation, but if you don't want to unmute and introduce, no worries. I'll go ahead and introduce our MRCA staff. Joe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Am I on mute or not?
We can all hear you.
Good. Hi, I'm Joe.
Joe is our Executive Director since 1985. Executive Officer for MRCA. Apologies. Melissa?
Hi, my name is Melissa Vega. I'm with MRCA and I'm part of the planning division.
Jamie? Jamie, you're on mute.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Jamie Cabral. I'm with the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority. Currently oversee some of our online social media outreach.
Brian and Sarah Kevorkian.
Hey everyone, good evening. I'm Brian Baldoff with MRCA and I work in planning and I'm the Chief of Watershed Planning. So thanks all for being here tonight.
Hello, this is Sarah Kevorkian and I'm a park planner with the MRCA.
And Sarah Rascone, I'm the Urban River Program Officer for the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority, MRCA for short. Again, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We're delighted to have you and we'll begin our presentation. Okay, go ahead, Jamie.
Next slide. We often get asked, who is the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority? We only are limited to an hour at this community meeting, but I'm going to do my best to give you an overview of all the projects, what we do, and how we work. Next slide. Oops. So the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority was established as a joint powers authority in 1985. We are with the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, the Conejo Recreation and Park District, and the Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District. Those entities are what make up the MRCA, as well as our board member. We have a member at large. If you at any time would like additional information, I'll have our website available on the next few upcoming slides. Next slide. So when we first started, MRCA purchased a lot of property in the Santa Monica Mountains, and as a process of holding before it can be turned over to National Park Service, California State Parks, or any of the other local entities that we work with. Next slide. And if anyone's interested, there's our website down at the bottom, mrca.ca.gov. And every little blue dot that you see right here is an access point to one of our many, many acres of trails, of parkland along the LA River. We don't just reside in the Santa Monica Mountains, of course. We're along the Elysian Valley. We're up in Santa Clarita. Next slide. And to help make this all come together, we have over 100 staff. We slowly but surely started growing. Staff was needed to take care of and properly manage the preserved land to make it accessible to the public. The amount of land we were getting, we weren't able to turn it over fast enough to National Park Service or state parks. So we started bringing on rangers, firefighters, operations and maintenance, construction into staff, park managers, planning, restoration, project managers along the LA River, finance division, and lawyers. Next slide.
Something before we move on. So MRCA has a vast array of divisions and different staff that really help make a park agency run and work. Although I do want to mention what is notable about the MRCA is that most, if not all of our projects are done with public funds. And a lot of those public funds are bond monies. Bond monies through the state of California mean that MRCA applies for a grant, gets this public funding, and is able to do the planning and development of a park. So we build parks really well. Unfortunately, in bond funds, there is no operations and maintenance money, which is why part of our model and what worked really well was for us to be able to transfer that project over, right? Sticking with our mission to create open space and parks, especially trying to bring this natural beauty and open space to underserved communities and park poor areas. We don't care if we own it at the end of the day. We want to develop this space and preserve it and really turn our concrete jungle into permeable surfaces that have multiple benefits and are multi-purpose for climate change, greenhouse gas absorption, public health. Parks have multiple benefits. I don't have to tell you all. So thank you all for being here and understanding the importance of parks in our communities. But along with building the parks, the operations and maintenance is a really big gap and a challenge, and something that we hope that the state will eventually address with bond funds so that we don't just keep getting monies allocated to build parks, but also to maintain them and even further do programs in these parks. Because, you know, a park is only as good as the folks that are recreating in it and are activating it. So that's all I wanted to add.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. as you can, I mean, that's a great segue into showing off what our staff has been able to accomplish over these years. And these are their day-to-day operations, from graffiti removal to trash pickup. The operations and maintenance staff do work tirelessly to keep the parks looking great. As Sarah mentioned, because our funding comes from applying from grants and bonds.
Jamie, let me just jump in here.
Yes, Joe.
We're using up a lot of time that could be occupied by our community partners here. I think you can see the folks that we have here, and you've probably seen a lot of them at various points in the as you look at our properties. Can we just move along here to the substantive part of this conversation?
Sure, we can move along. So Jamie's almost done, actually. She has 3 more slides.
If you just want to flip through the staff just to show the projects, that's fine.
Sure. So this is an example of operations and maintenance. Our fire division is also out fighting fires often. If not, they're in prevention mode. So this is just an example of our projects and our staff and one of our latest acquisitions. So now we are going to discuss, now that you have an overview of MRCA, we're going to be discussing a new project that's actually an old project, which is the first river park along the LA River. Go ahead, Melissa.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Melissa Vega, and I am the project manager assisting with the Elysian Valley Gateway Park Improvements Project on Knox Street. Today, we're happy to give you an update and overview of where we are in the design process for the park. We have heard from the community about the growing need for improvements to the park and know that they're long overdue. 3 design concepts were brought to the community in the fall, and we received a lot of good feedback from you on each of those design concepts. Elements from each of those were taken and incorporated to create the final concept, which you are seeing now. We are excited about it, and we hope you are too. Next, I want to introduce Lacey Withers. Like she mentioned earlier, she is part of the design team who developed this beautiful concept, and she will walk us through the design a little bit more in detail. And then I will ask that if you have questions or comments, please submit those through the Q&A or chat. And then after Lacey is done, we'll do a quick Zoom poll, and then we can get into the questions. We want to do it in an orderly way so that everyone who wants to talk and provide input and or questions, we could do it give everyone the opportunity to do so. So with that, Lacey, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for coming tonight. We're excited to share the design that we've got to, I should say, with everybody's input. This has been a several-year process of working with the community to find out what they're looking for in this park and what would work for the community and those that frequent the area. Not just those that live there, but those that use the bike path and possibly work in the neighborhood. So as Melissa mentioned, we've been working on it for several years, taking feedback, but the last round, what we did was we presented 3 different design concepts that contained the elements that the community wanted to see in this park. And we took votes. We presented them several times in several different locations, and with the last presentation being more of an open house where we collected some opinions and feedback back from those traveling through Marsh Park and coming off the bike path, and it was really interesting and fun, and we gathered a lot of information. And overall, actually, all 3 concepts were received quite happily. They were pleased, but what we finally determined was that it was going to be a combination of 2 of the concepts that we presented. And River Deck was the name of the concept that was most popular, and so we added elements from the River Deck concept. Excuse me, we took the River Deck concept and added elements from the other 2 that were favored, and with that, what we ended up with was a removal of the fitness equipment, an introduction of a play structure or a play area for children within this river deck concept. We also changed the entrance a little bit from river deck, where we had more of a direct entrance to the bike path, where you didn't have to go through the deck area itself. And then another separate area to bring strollers or wheelchairs possibly up to the river deck. So it was a easier transition for bikes and any wheeled vehicle, I guess you could call it. The other feedback was that they wanted more picnic tables. And so we added more picnic tables and more green space. So we opened up that center area between the bioswale, which is an area where we infiltrate water. We collect stormwater from the park and actually off the street. And so we infiltrate that water and we also clean it. And if it overflows in our space, we are releasing it back into the river, but it's cleaner for having been through our bioswale. They also requested more shade. So we ended up with more trees in this concept than we had in the previous concept. So apparently it was probably somewhere around this time of year, it was pretty hot. So everybody was looking for shade. So within the new design, as you can see, we have additional site furnishings, like obviously picnic tables. We have bike racks and trash receptacles. We also have a seat wall that wraps the river deck so that if you didn't want to bring a chair or a yoga mat or something like that to view the river, you can just park your self onto the seat wall. And so we have this really nice big viewing platform where you can watch the passerbys on the bike path, or it's, as most of us know, it's incredible space to view the river. Really special. So obviously the viewing is the main draw here, but we have, as I mentioned, the stormwater treatment. The whole park is planted with native plants and native trees. And we also are including some interpretive signs. We're going to have an entry gateway artwork piece, like as tradition goes with the parks along the river. And then we have some nature play elements so that the kids can, that was also a request from the last meeting, was that some areas where the kids can just, maybe do boulder hopping or play in the sand and dirt and play with nature. So that's pretty much where we're at today. If you have any comments, like Melissa said, please let us know and we'll take those into consideration.
Great, thank you, Lacey. I think now is a good time to start the poll. Sarah, if you wouldn't mind bringing it up, please. And this will help us segue into comments or questions that you may have. Like I mentioned previously, if you want to submit those through the Q&A, we can do so. Oh, great, thank you. Okay, so we have 3-question poll. And so feel free to input your responses. There's multiple choice. We're wanting to gauge your excitement and which type of amenities you see yourself using the most. So please input your comments now, your responses now to the 3 questions, and then we'll show the results.
So here's the problem. I don't see, have we offered alternatives for what is in the park?
Yes, this is the result of 3 different designs.
Yes.
Which we've shown over the span of 3 in-person community meetings.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we still have a few folks voting. I'm going to be closing the poll in a couple seconds.
So does everybody, are you all in agreement that this is a good process here?
Zoom for community engagement.
We so far we have about 36 who say I love it, and we've got 55% who are saying they like it. So we have a few more who are still inputting right now?
All three designs got very positive feedback within the community meetings that we presented. People had a tough time deciding on one, and that's how we ended up with kind of a composite of several of them. So.
Okay, if anyone else would like to submit their choices, I'll be closing the poll shortly. Okay, great, and the results are in.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. So we have quite a bit who really love it. 36%, 55% like it. And then for the features that they see themselves using the most, river deck is 73%, picnic benches 18%, walking paths 55%, bike racks 18%. And then there's concerns at the bottom, you know. I guess I'm not surprised by these, but graffiti being the main one, and then trash. So I think with that note, if you would like to submit, like I said, your name and want to have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear it. Just do so through the Q&A so we can call on each of you to give everyone the opportunity to talk.
Just to clarify, so you're asking us to submit questions prior to your calling on us?
No, just tell me your name and if you want to talk. But go ahead, Steve, if you want to have any comments.
I don't need to jump the queue if someone else wants to, but if I should, I'm happy to. I just want to comment that the feature of this bending the path into the internal space and making an occupiable space with this kind of deck area, I think is really useful and a good model. I know one of the other parks down at Egret, the facing is towards the internal, and this is now facing towards the river, and I think that's good. And one of the big issues in the area has to do with the path as a thoroughfare versus the path to pasear, you know? And so I think giving relief points is a really good thing. I'm really interested to see how the water diversion works. And obviously it has a lot of benefit. I love that you have these cottonwood trees here. We have cottonwoods on our land 2 blocks down, and they bring a lot of life. They require some work. There's a lot of leaves that come down in the fall, and that'll be some work to deal with. But anyhow, those are my comments. I like how it interleaves a lot of different habitat. It's going to bring some creatures up in there too. So,
thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Anyone else?
And if you have any further comments or questions, you can email Melissa or call her. Her contact information is down to the left below. So moving on, and thank you, Melissa, for including the photo of Marsh to the bottom left, where the picnic table is the example. And I know one of the questions from Kim, you said, was when is Marsh going to reopen? You know, as I mentioned earlier, our operations and maintenance is supported by a lot of special events, including leases. Leases for tenants that reside on MRCA lands. So our last item is regarding the big tin building you all see next to the Lewis McAdams Marsh Park. And we are looking for a tenant. This is no surprise. We've been looking for a tenant since 2018. We have a lot of restrictions on that tenant and prohibited activities. You know, we want to get someone that's going to be respectful of the community. You know, it's also a interesting position we're in because the building is not in the best condition. This is it. And this is how the tenant will get the building. And they'll work with us to make some improvements. But we're here tonight actually to ask for your suggestions and ideas for what kind of community benefits could be incorporated by this tenant. So this is meant to be a discussion item. If you would like to unmute in a respectful manner and not talk over each other, I'd greatly appreciate that. These are some ideas we have. We don't have to stick to these, but more than anything, we wanted to hear from you all because this would be your future neighbor. And on that note, the revenue from the building would help support the operations and maintenance of the Marsh Park, the Lewis McAdams Park. Right now, all of our revenue from special events has been depleted due to COVID, which we had never anticipated. So it's really pressing and urgent that we get a tenant to help us support the existing parks and give back to the community. So on that note, that's my really brief presentation. This gives you an idea of the building we're discussing. If you're not familiar, but I'm sure most of you are, this is the Lewis McAdams Park and the Marsh Park, Marsh 1 to the right. And this is also another rendering just to give you an idea of the area that we are discussing and the green space that is surrounding the building. So on that note, I would like to open it up to comments and suggestions. Questions?
So the tenant that was there that converted the shipping containers, they left in 2018?
No, they left even before that. I want to say, Brian, perhaps you can help me, 16 or 17? They've been gone for a while. They outgrew the space.
So are you saying until you have a tenant, the park won't reopen?
Basically, yes.
Are you kidding me?
I wish I was. I wish I was kidding that we're in a pandemic. But the good news is we can get in the next few months.
So let me jump in here. So we have, thousands and thousands of acres. And when we have a nice little wedding in one of our properties, or we have a movie, or we have a commercial shoot, or any of that, that all goes into a pot. And before COVID, we would allocate that so that there was revenue to support. I think we had one full-time person and maybe a half-time person there at Lewis McAdams, and we had a hard time keeping up. I mean, there was a lot of graffiti and a lot of vandalism, but we tried to keep it up. Now that there is nobody doing a wedding and there's virtually no filming and there are no events and all of that we never anticipated would happen. Are you kidding? Southern California and no movies, no weddings? Yep, that's what we have. Down to zero. So that's our problem. And we fund the operation of these parks. We do not have in this area, we don't have any kind of taxing authority. You don't get taxed for an MRCA property. Also, that means that there's no ongoing revenue. So without an ongoing revenue source, there's basically nothing we can do. That's just the reality of it. I never expected that to happen, but that's what we are.
But we just had a presentation on building this new park, and I'm assuming paying the architects and things like that, but yet Lewis McAdams Park, which is an absolutely beautiful park, is completely closed. These two things don't make sense to me.
Well, as I mentioned earlier,
you know what? You're right. You're right. It takes, however, so long to implement something. We're not going to build the park unless we have the ability to maintain it. Okay? But if we stop right now, it takes so long to do these things. It's a year and a half. Then there's the California Environmental Quality Act and lawsuits and the whole thing. So we're going to take this right up to the point where we would be prepared to begin construction, but we're not going to begin construction unless we have the money to operate it.
So on that note, are there any suggestions or comments regarding the suggested community benefits?
I think if you ask the community around Lewis McAdams Park for volunteers to go in there and open the park and clean the toilet and whatever the heck else has to do, you might be surprised at the people that would be willing to help. To say you're not going to reopen it for years, you've been apparently trying to get a tenant for 2 years now, or until I guess the governor decides that, you know, you can have meeting space in there.
Kim, let me just make sure. So since March, we've had it closed. Before March, because we had this other revenue coming in from the west side and from fancy weddings and all that kind of thing, that was distributed throughout our park system.
I understand that.
So it's only been since March that we've had to close it. And if everything rolls back and comes back like gangbusters, and maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't happen. But if that doesn't happen, that is the reason we're saying we need to have funding that is associated with a particular park.
So one of my thoughts is, for instance, we are all closed down and there's a lot of restriction on what can be done. That said, particularly in the area of education, there's a lot of scrambling going on right now to give, to find ways, not only in transition, but even in the current moment to do things that are safe in the outdoors. So, you know, one of the groups that I'm working with right now is the Sustainability Institute that's housed in Cal State Northridge. They can't yet take their students on field service projects, but they will be able to soon, and the planning is going on with that. So, you know, one of the thoughts I have is just using the moment to invigorate the possibilities of ongoing academically based and school-based options that could be part of the community service component of a lease, where there might be afforded some small space that facilitates those things. At our little land without bathrooms and kind of like the county fairgrounds, not now because we're in the same situation, but there have been ways, and there are starting to be already ways now to make those kind of connections. So that's just one suggestion I have. It would require some follow-up and discussion, but you know, across the country, the conversation about educational pods, of course, they tend to be funded privately by parents, and the mission of all this is, I think, so broad and democratic, and that has to be figured out. But in relation to the schools, I think that's one question, including the higher education situation, where they are looking for ways, I think long-term, but maybe even now, and maybe the work of getting a tenant in there who's amenable to that, you should begin now. And those are a couple comments.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Any other comments in regards to the Marsh Building future tenant community benefits? If we have no other comments or questions, we can move on to announcements. I know we have a few folks on here who have some announcements.
Before we leave this, I want to ask Kim, are there key members of the community that you would suggest that we contact to do the, you know, the toilet patrol?
Is that to me, Joe?
Kim.
No,
yeah. Well, sure. I mean, there's a matrix of people in the neighborhood.
Steve,
that
I'm asking Kim. Kim Neal said,
yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't understand. Yeah.
Right. Kim Neal said we would be surprised if we asked for volunteers to do the toilet cleanup, etc. And I'm just asking Kim, you don't have to put them out, embarrass them on on social media, but maybe you can just send some names and some ideas here through our chat. Do that for us?
What do you mean names or media? I'm talking about people that live around the park.
Right, and I'm saying, so send us the send us the names.
I don't have, you probably have the names. I mean, Hector can give you the names of people that live around the park. I don't have the names.
So,
I'm an individual citizen. That's it. I'm unhappy that the park has been closed, shut down, not taken care of. I just wanted to know when it opened, and it, you know, it was like it's not going to open. There's no until all of this is over.
So
I would also say you could probably start renting it out for some small gatherings too, as long as you don't have 100,000 people in there.
the problem, of course, is that any gathering of more than 10 people is prohibited. So
then rent it out for 10.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So I'm one of the people that are, you know, would love to have an opportunity to put my business in that building. As my company is one of the few types of business that has actually kind of grown during the pandemic, because a lot of people want to take trailers and go camping. Possibly there's a situation where, you know, the tenant can have some employed to take care of the park. So I don't know. I mean, there's opportunities for that. Obviously, that building is in the way of the river there, but you know, there could be some things tied into that, so it makes sense for everybody, including the community, where they get to, you know, we could open the park, take care of it. I mean, you're right there. It's just basically taking care of your backyard. So maybe there's an opportunity. Anyway, yeah.
Thank you for the suggested community benefit. We will add it to our list.
I sent you guys some ideas on that. You know, putting windows through it so you can see the river, or putting a sky deck on top so you can, you know, people can come and see the scenery out there. I mean, there's all kinds of ideas out there. It is a difficult time for everybody as the pandemic is messing up a lot of things, but yeah, I mean, such a beautiful space. I personally was at that park every single day walking my dog, and it's an amazing place, and I understand everybody's frustration with it being closed. It's awesome.
We'll explore more, Kim. Thank you for the suggestions. I mean, maybe we just put up a big sign up bulletin and see the interest that we get if we put that at the entrance of the park. And if you can spread the word to your neighbors, we would greatly appreciate it as well. I can try and do some due diligence and hand out flyers to homes and work with Hector. We'll reconvene with our executive officer offline. But thank you for bringing your comments and concerns. So before we adjourn, I'd like to open up announcements. And before we do announcements, I'm just going to mention one more comment we received from Andrea Torres, which is regarding Vista Hermosa. She says, Ruben and I are extremely concerned about enforcement regarding masks. Over the past few weeks, we see large groups of people not wearing masks. We see rangers like Salvador doing a great job when the park first opened in April, but we have not seen rangers lately doing enforcement. She says that she has seen large groups hanging out, and she said she hopes this information helps so that helps the current situation with COVID-19. So it's a struggle, as I'm sure you all know, enforcing the mask rule, but we do have ample signage And when our staff is out at a park, we are telling folks that they have to wear a mask.
I just want to address that issue. This is a very difficult issue for us. So if a ranger comes up, and we have a lot of folks out there who are just not going to mask up. And so the ranger says, you know, please put your mask on, and the visitor gives them the finger. What does the ranger do? Does the ranger start engaging with them, thereby more vapors that could have COVID in them? Does the ranger, I mean, we're not going to take anybody to jail for no mask, and we're not going to take them to the ground for no mask. And if they say, you know, bleep you, and then go off, that's a very difficult situation. I would ask any of you, how do we deal with that? Right now, we've told our people it's not worth your getting a face full of COVID virus from recalcitrant park users. And so that's our current policy. Any comments, questions?
On that note, we'd like to have some announcements that are exciting and good news, and we hope Elysian Valley community members get to enjoy this programming. So because of the BOE bridge construction, there are funds for the kayak vendors to do Elysian Valley programs. Steve, would you like to start, and then we'll go to Anthea and Jeff Tipton if you'd like to all 1 minute to describe your programming and how you'd like to register interested Elysian Valley residents.
Sure. Steve Appleton, LA River Kayak Safari. So in essence, we are working with the Los Angeles River as a kind of laboratory for STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. We're working very closely with Doris Place School. Obviously in COVID, the field work that we intended to do is a little tricky, but there's various video. We have a kind of tadpole husbandry project going on where we've set aside some creatures that were going to die because of a pond that was drying down before they metamorphosed. And we're working very closely with the school to try to create curriculum that those teachers can use in the school. The community interaction with this, there's going to be multiple levels. There's some projection that's going to happen from our site that you'll be able to view from the river itself. We hope by next spring we're released from some of the restrictions and we'll be back out on the river doing these frog listening tours. So these are some elements of it. We are also hoping long-term to try to set up the idea of these kind of pod educations in our local community. You know, again, step by step in terms of COVID, but those are parts of it. I think how this information can get to you as it evolves. There will be signage on our site. There's going to be some announcements on LA River Kayak Safari's website and also a companion site of the Water Institute of Science Policy. So, and you could reach out to us directly and get on a mailing list. So that's a start, but we're excited to do this work. I want to say one thing about COVID. I'm out there almost every day. That's why I'm almost sunburned. There are a lot of people on the path. The majority are acting very respectfully to one another. And it's become a very important space for people to be outdoors. And I'm very hopeful that we'll get back to where we want to be. But in the meantime, I see a lot of goodwill out there. We have a garden too. We're passing vegetables over the fence. So anyhow, any of you guys want to reach out to us through LA River Kayak Safari, happy to give you more information. And thank you, MRCA, for supporting these activities.
Thank you, Steve. Anthea, in 1 minute, would you like to describe your program?
Sure. Anthea Raymond. I represent LA River Expeditions. I've been running their Elysian Valley operations for a number of years. I actually own property across the street from the LA River Center, which, as we've discussed, is the biggest source of income normally for the MRCA. So I'm very grateful to be on the MRCA for giving back to someone like me. I'm going to be running music classes in the style of capoeira, not run by me, but taught by sort of the original capoeira teacher in Los Angeles, a Brazilian guy. And we're going to be doing some live classes in the riverbed. We're also going to be Zooming them so people can participate in a socially distant setting or via Zoom on 3 Sundays. And yeah, we're looking for people who want to pre-register so we can give them the information they need about location and also safety precautions. So if folks want to reach out to me, I can type my email into the chat function. That would probably be the best way. But we have 8 slots on 3 Sundays through September, and I'm very excited about that. We think you guys are going to be really proud to see a lot of initial reaction from the community about how cool this is, and been working with a lot of the certified folks to be sure the word gets out so that we don't have, so everyone doing this.
Thank you, Anthea. So that will be in-person capoeira dance classes no in-person?
Oh, yeah, but music, not dance.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Music classes in the river channel itself because it's the recreation zone season. Again, there are 8 slots. So if you're interested, please get in because we have to maintain social distancing and not create gatherings. Thank you, Anthea. Jeff Tipton, please.
Yeah, hi. Jeff Tipton, LA River Kayaks. I've been doing a kayak program in the LA River Elysian Valley for the last 8 years. This summer, I'm doing 2 programs. One of the programs is a river flow yoga, I call it. I'm a certified yoga instructor. So the plan was to do the original plan was to do some in-person free yoga classes. I originally anticipated I'd be doing it at Lewis McAdams Park, but that doesn't seem to be working out. And I think for the most part, a lot of in-person activities in the city of LA aren't working out. So I have a virtual version of this. So basically I'm doing river flow yoga, and all the themes around the yoga are related to the river and specifically to the LA River. In addition to that, I have another program where I'm doing virtual kayak experience. So basically, people would get rowing machines delivered to their homes. Those would be rental rowing machines, and we'd be having online classes with a certified rowing instructor. And again, that would be river themed as well. The unfortunate thing is, and I'm sure that some of you are aware, that unfortunately fitness equipment became that, and eating Oreos became very popular during COVID. So I think at the start of COVID, I was able to get some rental rowing machines, but that seems to be very difficult to get. So I'm still working that part out. So basically 2 programs, river flow yoga and virtual LA River rowing experience. Those are my 2 programs. And anybody that's interested, lariverkayak@gmail.com. Also, I believe that there's some flyers that are going to be circulated through various means. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone else has any announcements, feel free to unmute yourself. Otherwise, we ended on time, and we thank you all for spending your evening with us. This is just a small percentage of the Elysian Valley community, so please feel free to pass along information to your neighbors and friends about the happenings of MRCA in Elysian Valley.
Thank you, Sarah. You've worked really hard.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, MRCA team.